Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at Juno KiwiSaver provider, okay? If you've watched any of my other KiwiSaver videos, you'll know I'm a big fan and advocate of simplicity. Well, today, simplicity's met its match, and that is Juno, okay? I have looked into Juno in the past, but today we're going to be looking over the past performance of Juno and simplicity over the last year. We're going to look at the fees both providers charge and also what companies that they invest in. But like I say in any other video, everything we talk about today is purely educational. Do your own research. I'm going to be leaving links to both KiwiSaver providers in the description below, so check that out. But with that said, let's jump into it. Juno KiwiSaver provider today, and we're going to compare it to simplicity. My KiwiSaver is not something that I actively manage and look over every day of the week or anything. Something I sort of look in at maybe every, 2 to 3 times a year to make sure I've made up that 1,042 minimum to be entitled to the $521 from the New Zealand government. I'll make sure I've done that, see how the fund's performing, make sure they haven't changed the fees in any way, and just general to see what else is out there in the market as well. And I had looked into Juno in the past, but as they're only new on the scene, they've only been around since 2018. I was sort of leaning more towards simplicity, as the fees were quite low as well. Their fees are very similar to Juno and simplicity, but we'll go over that a bit later on. And they didn't have much of a track record on their performance either, whereas simplicity had a couple of years on them. So that's why I was sort of leaning towards simplicity and made the shift away from ASB towards simplicity. This is actually coming from a comment on my other KiwiSaver video by a name of UKid. Thanks heaps for reaching out and pointing this out to me, because like I said, this is something that I don't actively watch my KiwiSaver returns every week or anything like that, so this is great. And Juno is creaming everyone else at the moment, including simplicity, he said. So from that, it sparked my interest to do a bit more research and do a bit more of a deeper dive into Juno to see actually what the returns have been and see how they stack up to simplicity. So that's what we're going over today. We're going to look at the returns of both Juno and simplicity. We're going to look at the fees that both KiwiSaver providers charge, and then also look at what both funds are actually investing in within their particular funds. And today we're going to be focusing on the growth fund as well. So if you want to look into maybe a balanced fund or conservative fund, then by all means do some research around that. If I could go across everything, but it'd be a 45-minute video. So today we're just going to be focusing on the growth fund, because that's what I'm actually invested in with my simplicity KiwiSaver provider. And like I said, do your own research around this. I'll leave some links in the description below, both to Juno and KiwiSaver provider. Don't just take my advice from it. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just a random guy on the internet going through what he sees, looking over some of the KiwiSaver providers in New Zealand. So let's jump into it. So we'll start off with looking at the returns, okay? So the returns by Juno this year have been incredible. Let's just have a quick scroll through this here. So we can see here, across all three funds, they're conservative, balance, and growth. They've topped the charts for number one at all. So conservative 7.5%. Hang on, let's take that back. Balance at 15.4 and growth at 23.7. So that's incredible returns over the space of the last year. This is up till end of September 2020. So here we have, just stacking them up compared to the big banks here, and absolutely smashing the pants off them. As you can see, compared to Westpac, ASB, BNZ, and ANZ, Juno's just absolutely belted them basically. And then we're going to move forward and see how simplicity stacked up against them as well. I don't want to be throwing simplicity out into the cold, because I have been a pretty solid believer in simplicity. But Juno's pretty coming in hot on the heels, and who knows, I may look at moving over it, in years to come. But we'll talk more about that later on. So that's where we know where Juno is sitting with its returns this year. Let's have a look to see how simplicity is stacking up against it. So this is the returns for actually all for simplicity KiwiSaver funds, but we're going to be focusing on the growth fund at the top here. So this year, this is the dated till 31st of October 2020. So simplicity growth fund has returned 6.45% there. 2 years analysed 10.75, and 3 years analysed 8.42. So pretty solid returns as well. This is these are before tax and after fund management fees. Past performance is not necessarily an indicator of future performance, and return periods may differ. So that's how both KiwiSaver providers have been, performing over the last 12 months. Let's move on to have a look at the fees. Okay, so this is the fees for Juno. This is off their PDS document, which can be found on both their websites. Both Simplicity and Juno have these available on their website. It's easy to find. But like I said, I'll leave descriptions to that below, so you can dig a bit deeper if you want to. But we're just going to focus on the fees here for Juno. So they run sort of more of a tiered sort of fee structure, which is quite a good fee structure to run actually. Whereas Simplicity has more just the flat fee sort of thing. But if you were to run it to a percentage for the growth fund, it actually works out exactly the same as Simplicity, depending on the amount of money that you have invested. So as you see at the top of the list here, if you're under 18 and a balance of under $5,000, it's actually free to invest with Juno, whereas Simplicity doesn't have that option. You still have to pay your monthly fee, your yearly fee. 5,000 to 24,999 is $5, and works its way down the list here. So once you start getting up to the bigger numbers, 100,000 to $1 million, that's when you're paying your monthly fee of $50, and then the $600 annual fee every year as well. So that's basically how that works. But yeah, if you work it out to a percentage basis, it's 0.31% as well. So that's the fees for Juno. But like I said, if you want to do a bit more research around that, jump on and check it out on their own website. Let's have a quick look to see how that compares with Simplicity's fee structure. So Simplicity's runs a pretty simple fee structure, which I like, easy to understand, and it's disclosed all over the website, easy to it's not hard to find or anything. You don't have to dig through 10 pages of documents and graphs and things to actually find how much they're skinning off the top for your their management fee, So every diversified fund has the same annual fee of $20 plus $3 for every $1,000 invested, so 0.3% in our product disclosures statement. So this is that PDS document I was talking about before. And then they also have a 0.01 as a conservative estimate of additional charge incurred with the Vanguard funds that they invest into. So predominantly Simplicity invests into ETF Vanguard funds. That's as we move on in the next bit, you can actually see where most of their investing takes place, and that is into these Vanguard ETF funds. And then, one more thing here, Simplicity does not charge the $20 a year membership fee for minors. Okay, so very similar to Juno there as well. So that's the fees for both. So as you can see with the fees there, both are pretty similar. So that's a great thing. Having a low fee KiwiSaver provider is something I always look for, especially when I'm not both in New Zealand and Australia, or investing into any funds in particular. Always make sure the fees are pretty low, and they're ideally performing quite well as well. So good to see. Let's just have a quick look to see which both funds, what they're actually investing in, to see where your money is actually working. So here we are. We're going to start with Juno. So Juno, this is what their target is: cash and cash equivalents at 10%, international and Australasian equities at 80%, and international fixed interest at 10%. But this is what their actual investment is. So that's their target, what they're trying to keep their investments invested in. But this is their actual investment mix over here, which is pretty close to their mark as well. Just a little bit more in the equities rather than the cash and cash equivalents. So cash and cash equivalents at 10.43%, and then the rest is in both international equities and Australasian equities. So that'll be the Australian and New Zealand equity markets. And then, as you can see, predominantly 75% or just over 75% is in international equity markets. So we're talking, the American markets, the Chinese markets, the Japanese markets. But this is their top 10 investments down here, guys. So we'll have a quick look what they've got as their top 10 investment holdings here. This is always an interesting place to look. I like looking at this, see what these sort of big actively managed funds are investing their money in. So this is just their cash and cash equivalents at the top here with BNZ. And their second biggest holding is with Alibaba. And if you look at, some of the big fund managers out of America at the moment, they've got investments with Alibaba. So that's interesting to see that there. Also Amazon, which has had an incredible year. Microsoft, Facebook, so they're pretty heavily invested in the tech sort of sector, and that is why this particular fund, I feel, has done so well this year, because the tech sector has just had an incredible year. Your Alibaba, your Amazon, your Facebook, your Google, Tesla, all these sort of tech sort of companies or tech-driven companies have had an incredible year, which is in turn sort of reflected in the return of Juno. So that's what Juno predominantly invests in. Let's have a quick look to see what Simplicity invests in, and then we'll wrap it up there. So this is what very similar sort of ratios to what Juno's running there. International equities coming in at 48%, Australasian equities at 28.49%, international fixed interest at 12.3%, New Zealand fixed interest at 7.26%, and cash and cash equivalents at 3.69%. So that's their target investment mix. And this is what they are predominantly invested in there. So you can see the top 3 holdings are all ETFs through Vanguard. So the Vanguard Ethical, Conscious, International Shares Index Fund hedged to New Zealand dollars, and the Vanguard Ethical Conscious International Shares Index Fund Australian, and the Vanguard Ethical Conscious Global Bond Index Fund, and the Vanguard Ethical Conscious Australian Shares Fund. Actually, their top 4 holdings are all sort of ETF based investments there. Another quick thing across both providers, they both invest ethically. Okay, so they're not investing in explosives or pornography or any of those unethical sort of gambling, unethical sort of companies. So that's also another great thing. Well, I've talked about it in other videos when I'm mentioning about simplicity. So if you want to check those out, then check those out. But today, like I said, we're just trying to compare the two. These are the other holdings within their top 10. So Fish and Paykel Healthcare, some cash on there, and A2 Milk, which is good to see up the top there. A2 Milk's had a bit of a rough last quarter, as you've seen in the share price. Auckland International Airport also has had a pretty rough year. Spark New Zealand and Meridian Energy. So I hope you got some value there from the comparison of both KiwiSaver providers. Like I said, I think a lot of this growth has come from that tech sector. Amazon and Alibaba and Facebook has driven a lot of this growth. So it'll be interesting to see the next year or two to see if they can maintain this sort of high level of growth within their fund. As it stands today, I'm still going to be currently investing with Simplicity for my KiwiSaver, but I'm definitely going to be watching this a lot more closely over the next 6 months or year or so, just to see how they can keep performing. If they can keep performing at these sort of numbers, then I may look at moving my KiwiSaver over to Juno as well, as the fees are very similar to Simplicity, which is something I always look at. But as it stands right now, Juno is far superior in returns, so definitely something to sort of look at. But you don't want to sort of be just chasing especially with this passive sort of style investing, which KiwiSaver is. It's a very passive, hands-off sort of investment, not something you have to monitor every day or every week or anything like that. You don't want to sort of be chasing the next one, getting in and out of funds. So for me personally, I'd just like to get in, and I've been with Simplicity for a few years now. But it's definitely something I want to watch. I think every year or so I'll do another video or update on Simplicity or whatever KiwiSaver fund I'll be with at the time, just to keep an update with everyone on it all, and just to give you a reminder, make sure you make that $1,042 before the end of the financial year in New Zealand to be entitled to the $521 from the government, which is also a great return, 50% return on money invested there. So you definitely need to make sure you do that before the end of play for 30th of June in New Zealand to be entitled for that next allotment of the $521. So definitely make sure you do that. If you got some value from today, guys, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that like button. And if you want to see some more videos like this moving forward, then hit the subscribe button. On this channel, we talk all things investing, shares, property, anything like that. So if you want to see some more videos like that, then like I said, hit that subscribe button and you'll be the first to know when the next video drops. With that said, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend and we'll catch you next week. Cheers, guys.